You've worked more than, I would say, most actors. You've had more than 250 roles. You've been on television, on stage, you've done
Yeah.
voice acting, you have been in movies. Do you remember a moment where you said, "Oh my goodness, I think I'm famous"? Was it a fan interaction? Was it seeing yourself somewhere?
I think it was all of those. I think it was all of those. I mean, I never took myself seriously, but it's like, holy smokes, this is unbelievable because I was being interviewed constantly. My mom kept all the clippings I've gotten somewhere, and it was a fast rise. Hi, I'm Jayne Eastwood. This is Famous with Jacy John Valeras.
Jayne Eastwood, thank you so much for being here, for taking time with me. I was so excited when you said yes to doing this.
Oh, you're very kind. We had such a good time at the Sharon, Lois Bram reunion. That was really fun. How many years ago was that?
That was 2 years ago in November.
Oh, only two. Huh. Okay. Well, it's really good to see you again.
Well, you're the kind of person I feel like when you meet you, it feels like you've known you for a lifetime.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that might be an affliction of mind.
It's a wonderful trait to have. And I mean,
Oh,
that event, we were at the Winter Garden Theater in Toronto. It was wonderful and chaotic backstage. We
yeah, it was
shared a
great.
dressing room, which was so much fun. And
I know.
you were the best dressing roommate. I don't know, maybe I was not, but you were
No,
fantastic.
you were great. I had a wonderful time with you. It was awesome.
What I think about when I think back to that night and meeting you, we were part of such an incredible crowd of people. Colin Mockery was hosting with his wife Deb McGrath,
Mm-hmm.
and Patrick McKenna. There
Pat
were
McKenna was brilliant, brilliant. Yeah.
so many celebrities there. And what left such an impact on me was the fact that you could have been tucked away in your dressing room for the whole night. But instead, you sat on the side of the stage and watched every other performer, congratulated them, wished them well. You were standing up, singing along, clapping your hands.
Oh, that's nice.
Like
That's good.
it speaks volumes of what a wonderful human being you are.
Well, I don't think I was alone in that, actually. I mean, it's a Deb McGrath. We were in a comedy group together called Women Fully Clothed, and she's a doll. Colin's an absolute doll. Patrick's adorable. I think I'd say pretty well every Canadian actor I've met is a pretty warm, friendly, fun person, and I think we're still in the days of supporting each other. Every time we see a Canadian success, we get very excited. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it still is a community here. It is very much a community here. I mean, it's much bigger than it used to be. And there's probably a whole bunch of wonderful young actors that I don't know. But I'm not alone in that. I mean, nobody, well, there's no star system in Canada. There's like zero star system. There's some well respected actors, that we all love and feel wonderful about, but nobody is like a star.
I think that is very interesting because here in the States, it's not always that way.
Oh, I know.
I wonder if I wonder if that has to do with the way that you were raised and the way that you kind of all came up as a group, because there is such an iconic group of actors. Some of the people we just
Mhm.
mentioned, I know Deb McGrath, you all kind of came up together. So do you think that that has to do with the fact that you had similar experiences when you were just starting out?
I think so. I mean, the one group that I came up with was the Godspell group, and that was like Marty Short, Eugene Levy, Gilda Radner, Andrea Martin, Victor Garber, Paul Schaefer, who was Letterman's band guy for like 20 years. He was our musical director. Um, there was just a whole bunch of wonderful, hilarious people. And then we all got into Second City, and that was my brother-in-law, Joe Flaherty, Brian Doyle Murray, who's Billy Murray's older brother, Jim Belushi. We used to hang out with John Belushi. I mean, it was those are the people. That was our crowd. That was our crowd. It was
Yeah.
amazing. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Now, a lot of them are huge stars in LA, but I still think they know where they come from, you know?
I want to talk a little bit about your roots because you grew up in Toronto.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood. I know that acting was not your first idea of a career.
No, no, no. Excuse me while I fix my hair on camera.
Please do.
Please stop touching your hair, Jane. Um, I grew up in a very straight neighborhood, very business. People were about business and success. And I was the only one in my family who he was even remotely artistic. I mean, I used to draw as a kid, and I always knew I wanted to be an actor. We were up at the cottage. This is so weird. We have a cottage in Muskoka. I was up at my Aunt Billy's cottage on top of the hill. I was 7 years old. I remember running down, banging through the screen door to tell my mom in our cottage, when I grow up, I'm either going to be an actress or an artist. And she went, "Oh, that's nice, dear." And that was it. I mean, that was it. And then as the years went on, I always knew I wanted to do that, but we didn't even know an actor. I mean, it was just out of the question. It just, there was probably some amateur theatricals I could have joined, you know, would have been very nice, which I probably would have done if I hadn't gotten so lucky in the professional world. And I can remember asking my mom, I was kind of a short, dumpy, rather unsuccessful child. And I asked my mom if I could go to Josephine Barrington's drama school. And so she was obviously English. Everybody in television in Canada at that time was, most of them were English. Most of them were from the BBC. They're all English expats who would come to Toronto to make their mark. And she never sent me. She just never thought that she just thought that'd be a waste of time and money. So that was my childhood. It was a very pleasant childhood. It was very nice. But to become an actor, that was just a far, far off dream.
So when you were in school, were you focusing a lot on your art? Were you focusing on painting? Did you take art classes and stuff like that when you were in high school?
Yes, when I was in high school, I was in a high school called York Mills Collegiate, and I was having a very hard time there. I was not good looking. I was kind of short and dumpy. I didn't have the kind of clothes that the other girls had. Nobody talked to me at that school in grade 9. Nobody talked to me. So the only time I was ever happy was in art class. The other classes kind of went by the wayside. And then between grade 9 and 10, I lost 30 pounds and grew 5 inches. So I became normal. I became a normal looking teenager. And then all I wanted to do was just be popular and go to parties. So I probably got 0 in French and math. I failed grade 10 because I was not wild. Yeah, I was probably a bit wild. And I said to my parents, I know this gal, Susan Best, who I used to be in public school with, who's taking the art course at Northern, which was more of a downtown vocational school, right? And I remember my father saying, who really was a nice guy, he said, "Well, that'd be fine if you could draw." And my mom said, "She'll learn to draw." So I went there, and my whole life began. My whole life began. And we were like the art students, and we kind of all moved up together. So we became incredibly close. And most of them, and they were all quite brilliant and fascinating and wonderful and full of humor. And pretty well all of them were rejects from other high schools.
So you had this commonality. You had this thing that kind of bonded you together.
We were different. We were just different. It was like my life began. My life began there. And so many times I've done a lot of articles up here in the newspaper, and I always say Northern Secondary saved my life. And
did you have a teacher that inspired you or encouraged you?
Not personally, but group wise. I remember we had a wonderful English teacher, Mr. Cameron, and he thought that we were all just a bunch of hooligans in the beginning. And then by the middle of the semester, he had guys standing on their desks arguing about Shakespeare. You know what I mean? Because he was that inspirational kind of guy. And he said, I must admit, when I first met this class, I thought this is going to be rough, and this is the best class I've ever had.
From there, you ended up becoming an actress. You had a friend, I believe, that got you into live theater. Was that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I did some shows at Northern, and so that was magnificent. And then I never thought I could be a professional. And then I ended up in an art studio, which was wonderful. It was wonderful to get a job in an art studio in those days, because that was pretty hard to get. I had to take 3 buses to get to that studio, but I was willing, you know what I mean? And the guys were great, and they were training me to run the studio. So it was a good job. But this other friend of mine, John McDonald, who had become an art director at J. Walter Thompson, which is a huge agency in Canada. I think it's in the States too. And he said they're auditioning, it's an amateur theater. They're auditioning for Mrs. Venables and Suddenly Last Summer, who happens to be 75 years old. I was 23 or no, 21, 20, maybe I was like 20. And I got it. And apparently it went well. I don't know how I convinced the audience that I was that old, but it was amateur theatricals. And there was a wonderful teacher from New York. I think he was originally Canadian, Eli Rill, who taught at the New York play. It's a really huge acting school in New York. I can't remember the name of it because I'm old. Anyway, he handed me his card and said, I do a workshop. Would you like to come to my workshop? I said, oh yes. And that just started everything. He said, Jayne, you're really good. You should be a professional. And then he put a few of us on stage. We were able to like mount a play at a place called the Teller's Cage, and an agent saw me, and then I got an agent. And that's all you need just to get going,
And that does not happen to everyone.
Never.
You got lucky for sure, right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate, so lucky. And then there was this, I was still working out at Eli's workshop. He was a great acting teacher. He really taught us how just to be, you know what I mean? Not hang signs out. Like I remember one of the most interesting notes he gave. He said, I don't want you to show that you're angry. I want you to be angry on stage or in front of the camera. And that's, you just think about it, makes total sense because the camera can get right into your soul. You know what I mean? It just gets right in there. So we learned a lot from him. Then there was this audition for a movie called Goin Down The Road, and 3 of us from Eli's class got the leading roles because we were method actors. We were method actors, and he wanted to make a very sort of documentary reel, and that became the biggest hit in Canada.
Do you remember anything about the audition process for that, or were you just kind of given the role because of your connections with them?
I remember auditioning, but I don't really remember what I did. It was a really long time ago. Mm-hmm. And my character didn't have a ton of dialogue. I was just happy to get a movie. I got paid $600 for the whole thing. Took us 6 months to shoot it.
Wow, that is some kind of labor law problem right there.
Exactly. But it was non-union. The union wasn't even around. Yeah, I think I was one of the first members of ACTRA. That's our union in Canada. Mm-hmm.
Did you get to a point where you said, I'm either going to do acting or I'm going to go and continue doing my art? Or was it always just kind of, I'm going to do both?
I flipped right over into acting. Like I just, no, bye-bye. This is what I do now. And it wasn't easy. I mean, a couple of times I had to model at the art college. I had to learn how to type so I could pick up the odd typing job. But I just knew that that's where I belonged. I was in heaven. So there were it was tough in the beginning, but it got easier and easier because of this movie called Goin Down The Road. I was like a star all of a sudden in Canada. And I was like the CBC's darling girl. They were just offering me stuff all over the place. And then sometimes, that was a great time for me. I always say, yes, I peaked in 1975 and it's been downhill ever since. It's yeah, but I still go through an actor's life. It's like I'm 70, I'll be 78 in December. I'm not working very much right now. I'm working a bit, but not tons. But I'm okay with it.
Well, I mean, you've worked more than I would say most actors. You've had more than 250 roles. You've been on television, on stage. You've done voice acting. You have been in movies. Oh my gosh. Do you, really lucky. When you were doing Going Down the Road and kind of getting that first taste of fame, do you remember a moment where you said, oh my goodness, I think I'm famous? Was it a fan interaction? Was it seeing yourself somewhere?
I think it was all of those. I think it was all of those. I mean, I never took myself seriously, but it's like, holy smokes, this is unbelievable, because I was being interviewed constantly. My mom kept all the clippings. I've got them somewhere. And it was a fast rise. Yeah. I remember there was this other actress and she said, you're really riding a wave right now. I said, yeah, I know. And then then I started having kids, and I was completely forgotten about for a good decade,
Well,
in the 80s. Yeah.
I don't know if I would say forgotten about, because here's the thing. The reason that I came to know you was from some of your special roles. I remember seeing you on Ramona. You played the teacher.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
I think
That
that
was
was
great.
probably my first introduction to you. Of course, you were on Sharon, Lois and Bram's Elephant Show playing the evil queen, which,
Yeah. Yeah. I was getting bits and bobs.
yeah, for sure. Are there people that still come up to you and remember you from a specific special role that you played like that?
Well, I must say I did the Comic-Con in Hamilton a couple of weeks ago, because I was associating with this show called Pink is In, and they asked me if I would be at their desk. I said sure, and there were three brothers. They came just to see me because of the Naughty Shop that I did. It was a beautiful kid show. It was quite fabulous. It was
Yeah.
like the BBC, PBS, TVO, and I played Aunt Agatha. They said we came all the way to Hamilton just to see you. And then there was another lady who burst out into tears when she saw me. So I forget that people actually watch me. You know what I mean? It's like you tend to forget. You do your job, you go home, you say, yeah, that was great, great actors, great director. You have some white wine, a good day, well done. And you forget that you're going out there and people are actually watching you.
Yeah. Well, what a magical thing to have happen though,
It
that.
was nice. It was really sweet. Yeah.
And I know you've done a lot of voiceover acting, so I want to ask
Mhm.
you a couple questions about that. I know, of course, you are famous for Paw Patrol, which my nephews
I am
watch.
now. I won the Canadian Screen Award for Best Animation for that. Nobody was more surprised than I was. That was amazing.
I think that's fantastic. So I want to ask you a little bit about the differences between getting on stage to do a play, getting in
Mhm.
front of a camera to do a movie, and then standing behind a microphone and having to act solely with your voice.
Yeah,
What
that's
is that like? What goes into that, and how different is it?
well, that's a good question. I'll start with the stage. I don't really do plays anymore because I'm committed to my comedy group. We've been together for almost 17 years, and we're getting back together again after COVID for the first of our final tour. So we're doing a best of. And now I was doing a lot of television, and I know okay, we'll talk about Women Fully Clothed later. I did a play called Night Mother, and my manager said, do you want to do this for the Fringe? I went, no. And then I looked at it, I thought, okay, if I'm going to call myself an actor, I should probably do this. It was a two-hander, very sad play. It's about a girl who wants to kill herself, and she's a big girl. Life is really tough, and her mother spends the whole night trying to talk her out of it. So it's a two-hander, not easy to do, gut-wrenchingly sad.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, I'll do that. And then I remember it's just the physicality, going from being on a movie set where your hair is done, your makeup is done, you're being given subs in the middle of the morning, like which they call substantials, snacks. Then lunch is made for you. Then you get more snacks in the middle of the afternoon to keep you going. And you are driven to and from the set. Theater, get there on your own, bring your lunch. Nobody's doing your hair and makeup. Nobody's doing anything for you. It's like the stage manager just saying, half hour, please. And then you just get on stage and do your thing. Like you're really on your own in the theater. I mean, but the love is there, of course, but
And it humbles you, I'm sure.
oh, it sure does. It sure does. And mind you, I started out in theater. I just
Yeah.
got so involved in film and television, I forgot what it was like. And now, as I said, I'm in this comedy group, Women Fully Clothed, with Robin Duke, who was in Saturday Night Live, Teresa Pavlinak, and Kathy Greenwood, brilliant, brilliant comedians. We're all from Second City. We write our own material. So that's a whole new experience too. And that is my favorite because that's about getting laughs. I love getting laughs. And it's funny stuff. It's very funny stuff. Now, voice, and I can remember I had a manager, John Downey, and he started to teach me how to do voice because I had no idea. Back in those days, it was a very smooth delivery. You know what I mean? He said, I want you to meet Toby Tarno. She was one of the biggest voice people. And she just had that wonderful, that wonderful smooth voice and just sold it really well. So that's how I learned that that's how you're supposed to be on mic. But I started getting character parts, so I didn't have to worry about that stuff anymore. I was never the smooth announcer. But what you do learn is what, like what you said, you only have your voice to portray emotion, fear, you know what I mean, hilarity, warmth, sorrow. And so you think about all of that. No face, no face at all, just your voice. So you just start working it that way.
When you are doing a role like I'll take Paw Patrol for example, are you seeing the character kind of come to life and then developing what that sound is going to be? Or are you just thrown in a room, here it is, say your lines? What kind of lead time do you have to kind of create that?
Zero. I mean, they send you the lines.
Yeah.
And so you can work on those, but you're so happy you don't have to memorize them. No, you're in the booth. The Paw Patrol people are really lovely. They're lovely. The producer, the online producer there will, she'll, for the first take, she'll read the other character's line for you. So you have something to respond to. Other than that, you just have to imagine how they're sounding and what they, well, you see what they're saying to, but you just have to imagine what they sound like. So you're thinking their role at the same time that you're thinking about your role.
Right.
So that's another thing that's quite difficult. And every once in a while, like Mayor Humdinger and I got to work together once, and it was fabulous. And I said, "Oh, I hope we get to do this again." So yeah, we'll try. It's just all about, like the time and everything. So you're usually there alone, doing your thing. And what I did not know about voice, and I've been in the business for years, the animation is done to my voice.
Really?
Yes, yes. Because they said to me, I'll brag here a little bit. They said, "Jayne, you're the animator's favorite." they love animating for you.
Of course you are.
So, but that's and that's humbling. Like, the show was created on the kind of voice that you were doing. Isn't that amazing? And of course the script and everything, but still.
Well, it's really nice to know though, because I feel then like the actor has that creative
Yes.
input.
Yeah, it is very creative. It is very, very creative. And it's a ton of fun. I mean, everybody wants to do voice work, and it's not that easy to get into it. Like, I'll have people who aren't even in show business thinking, "Well, I could probably do a little bit of voice work. I think I'd like to do that." And I said, "Yeah, so would every Shakespearean actor at Stratford." You know what I mean? It's because it's a great job. It's a great job.
Well, I want to quickly touch on something you said right before this, which was the different kinds of roles you've played. You've played, an actor that has had a very sad role. You've played comedic roles. You've done voice acting. And you've done so many of these throughout your career. Is there something that you will always turn down? No, that is not for me. I am not going to do that.
I don't like the sexy business. I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. And also, I believe in God, right? Yeah. And if I don't want to do anything that God would find offensive, I just won't do it. And it's worked out very well for me. And my manager, she feels the same. So, I mean, sometimes scripts will come in, although this Hey Lady one was like pretty spicy.
I was going to bring that up.
Well, I almost turned it down. I did turn it down because they wanted me to drop my robe in front of the plumber. I said, "I don't go for that. I'm not going to do it." But then as I kept reading, I thought, "Oh, damn, this is funny though. This is like really funny. It's gross, but it's funny." So that was the exception to the rule. And Sarah Pauly, who's a brilliant director, phoned me and said, "Jayne, it's not about sex. It's just about you just wanting to piss people off because your life is what it is." And I mean, they dumped it after I turned it down.
Well, I have to tell you that I was in Canada because it's not available here in the States. I was in Canada and a friend of mine and I binge watched every episode. I said, "This is the best thing I have ever seen." And
it's
also
really
having
funny.
met you, and it's just so unexpected from you. And I think that's fantastic.
Well, we won the Sundance Film Festival for it. I won Best Actress for it. It's now, and CBC has now released it onto international YouTube, so it's out there now.
Ooh, good to know. I'm gonna tell
Yeah,
people
and
to
it was going to be a series. They were going to turn it into a half hour, and they backed out just at the very last minute, which broke my heart for the writer because he's a brilliant writer, and they had him doing like they paid him, thank God, doing the Bible and writing a whole bunch of episodes and changing it, and he went through an awful lot to be turned down. So I feel bad for him. The guy's brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant theater writer too. Well,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what he is originally. Yeah, yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
Has there been a role that you've played that you wish you could play over and over and over again? Like I would go back and just take full time on that role.
Yeah, well, I love the happy, funny ones like Aunt Agatha on Naughty. I could have done that for a long time. We also, and there was a wonderful show, and it was very popular in the northern states because they were getting CBC. It was called This Is Wonderland. And the writing was so powerful and so fabulous and so character driven for like everybody who was on it. Even like the guest stars, quite often guest stars don't really get a perfect role. Well, every guest star was just so happy they would put it on the reel right away because it was so stunningly written. I could have done that show forever, written by a great writer by the name of George F. Walker. And I played the lead lawyer's mother, who was a bit of a little on the trampy side, a little on the rough, funny side, but it was a lovely role. My name was Ronnie. Actually, I was watching a bit on YouTube. Somebody said it was on. So it's called This Is Wonderland. If you ever want to check it out. I'm in the second and third and fourth season.
Okay.
It's a long time ago. And then there was this other show called Riverdale, the old Riverdale, not the latest Riverdale. And it was based on Coronation Street and EastEnders. Have you ever watched those in England? From England, Coronation
Yes.
Street. Yeah, Coronation Street's been on the air for about 45 years. And I thought, cool. I've got a job for 40 years. And I played Gloria. I played a lot of Glorias, a lot of Bettys, just those down home gals. And I was like a single mom. And I could have done that forever. I guess I'm not very ambitious. I guess I like, I enjoy comedy now. I mean, comedy's actually what I love and what I care about and what I'm good at. So that's where I want to be.
I think that is absolutely where you shine. And,
Yeah.
talking about some of the people that you came up with, you all had some pretty good influences. I want to talk about some of those people. I mean, you came up with people like Martin Short. Talk a little bit about working with him.
Well, Marty was hilarious right from the get-go. Godspell was his first real gig. Now, he and Eugene Levy were best friends. They lived in Hamilton, which is where I live now.
Yep.
Marty was going to be a social worker. And Eugene had already done a couple of things with Ivan Reitman. He did a movie called Cannibal Girls. Him and Andrea Martin had done that. And Eugene said to Marty, come on, we'll audition for it. It was like an open audition in Toronto at the Masonic Hall. It was like American Idol. It was like an American Idol audition.
Okay.
And I remember them sitting behind me or in front of me. And I think I just knew that they were funny. And I turned around and said, oh my God, you guys are great. And they both got in. They couldn't believe two best friends got into Godspell together. It was like amazing. And Marty was fantastic. And he worked very hard. He and Eugene worked very hard. They were always trying to improve their bits. And you know what I mean? They were just amazing to work with. It was a big love fest. And nobody made me laugh more than Marty. And we became very, very good friends. We became really good friends. We'd be out till 5 o'clock in the morning, much to my boyfriend's dismay. Sorry about that, Roger. But I mean, I just wanted to be with them all the time. And Gilda, oh my God. I mean, we're just nuts about each other. So there's a documentary being done about us.
Really?
Yes. Judd Apatow is producing a documentary about what they call the legendary Godspell.
I want to talk about Women Fully Clothed because I know you guys are doing a bunch of tour dates coming up. And this is just a show that if you can come to the States, please do, because I know it would be so well received. I follow you all on social media and you always have like the best posts and everything. Tell me what this show is going to be like.
Well, it's going to be our best of, because we wrote 3 shows and we just feel that because we go to small towns a lot too, you might have 300 or 400 people in the audience, and that was 17 years ago. And so I think there's still an audience out there for the scenes that we love so much. You know what I mean? That we just want to bring them back. So it's the best scenes from 3 years of writing and from 17 years. And so it's going to be good. It's going to be great.
I hope that I get the chance to see it
I
because
hope you do too. Orlando loved us. The ladies of Orlando were fabulous. You're in Nashville, right?
I am.
Well, we'd love to come to Nashville.
Come
I
on
think,
down.
yeah, we would love that. Well, you never know. While I'm still on this earth, we just might make it down. Yeah, we enjoyed touring the States. It was very well received down there. It was
Yeah.
fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Nashville, you did a movie. I am like all over the place here. I just have so many
That's okay. It's
that I've
okay.
always wanted to ask you. You did a movie years ago with Naomi Judd called A
Yeah.
Holiday Romance. I knew Naomi. She was a friend and I just adored her
She
so
was
much.
wonderful.
What was it like getting to do a movie with her?
She was just a doll. And I think Andy Griffith was in that movie too.
Was.
And I played his girlfriend. I think I smooched him.
You played Andy Griffith's girlfriend. How
I
cool.
did. He wrote me Christmas cards for many years after that. He was a sweet man, a very sweet man. And Naomi was wonderful. She was wonderful. So down home, so not acting like a movie star or a country western star. And I remember we were talking about kids, and she said, "Yeah, I know. My daughter Ashley, I've been talking to her about," just like it was Ashley. And then she was talking about, no, she was heaven. She was absolute heaven.
I
I'd
would
say, and most people, like I tend to work with quite a few American stars in Canada because of the tax break and all that stuff. So we're the Canadian tax credit actors, but I've had some lovely roles with some wonderful stars like Jason Alexander. I played his mother, George Costanza,
Yeah, of course.
and Ed Asner was my husband, and they were just heavenly. They were wonderful people. Jason was adorably said, "Jayne, I'm so thrilled that you're playing my mother, but you understand that I'm only 3 years younger than you." I said, "I know, happens to me all the time." I've worked with Paul Newman. He was an angel. Sir Ben Kingsley. Yeah,
I mean,
really nice people.
you were in so many iconic movies too. Chicago, Hairspray,
Yeah,
all the My Big Fat Greek Wedding movies. And
yeah,
most of them, like you said, were filmed right in your backyard. It wasn't like you had to travel too far.
right in my backyard, and they were all small parts. I mean, it's not like I was probably number 27 on the call sheet in those movies, but it was really fun. It was really fun. And Nia Vardalos is Kathy Greenwood's best friend. Nia Vardalos used to work for my brother as a receptionist when he was an agent, and she
Really?
worked at Second City. Yeah, yeah, and she's a doll. She's great, and she flew us all the way over to Greece to be in her final movie. And I think she insisted, because just she wanted Kathy and I and her friend Tanis in it again. She wanted to keep the continuity of, like, the cast going. We were there for a week. I think we worked for a half a day, and all our lines were cut out, basically. But we were in Greece for a hot week. Oh, it's hot over there. And we were nowhere near the ocean. We were in Athens.
My husband is Greek, and
Is
I
he?
hope to get over there at some point. Yeah, I mean, we've watched all those movies a bajillion times.
Oh, that's
so you are a staple in our household.
That's so nice. That's so nice. Where do you go in Greece? And what time of year do you go?
I've never been.
Oh, wow.
His mother is from Kalamata area, and his father's from northern Greece, right near the Albanian border. So
fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you a good trip there.
Thank you. Are you looking to do any other thing in your career that you haven't already done? Is there like a bucket list thing that you still really want to do?
No. No, that'd be a soft no. I can't, honestly, I can't think of anything.
But that's incredible.
I'm getting old. I'm getting kind of, chilling. I'm kind of chilling. I'm painting a lot. I still paint. I have a great art studio in a little town of Dundas, which is right beside Hamilton. It's beautiful. Yeah. No, I just take jobs as they come along.
Yeah. Well, I want to end this with a couple quick little one-off questions.
Sure.
First is most starstruck you've ever been meeting another celebrity.
Well, Paul Newman. I mean, come on. It's like,
Yes.
I even my manager said, "You're gonna be working with Paul Newman," and I flew to Montreal, and the AD picked me up and said, "Would you like to meet Mr. Newman?" It was at nighttime. "I'll bring you to his trailer." I went, "Okay, yeah," and he was so lovely. He put his arm around me. He said, "You've got to do all the talking in this scene." And so we were kind of laughing about that. He said, "So would you like to do it now?" I went, "Yeah." Okay. Okay, I'm glad I really worked on it, and he loved it. He thought it was great. So I was pretty starstruck. Um, but he was so easy to talk to. You know what I mean? Because I talked to him about how he had directed Rachel. Rachel, he did a really good job. And so we talked about that. He told me all about him and Joanne, and just like just like a really nice guy. So when I say starstruck, I mean, oh, I can speak. I don't melt in front of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was, and then Sir Ben Kingsley, I said, "Okay, so what should I call you?" He said, "Well, you can call me Sir Ben." I mean, this is an actor from the north of England who's been knighted by the friggin' Queen. Of course, he's going to hang on to his Sir. I don't blame him. Exactly. Exactly. And
That's
one of the most starstruck things happened to me here in Hamilton. You may not have heard of the group Crash Test Dummies, but you're in a musical town, so they might know who he is. He wrote, it's called the Superman song.
okay.
And it's a song that I've loved for years and years. Like, he's originally from Winnipeg. He lived in New York. I mean, it doesn't mean anything to you because you don't know the song, but I almost fell off my chair when I realized it was him. And I said, "And what's the name of your group?" He said, "Crash Test Dummies." I said, "Oh, of course you're the, oh my God." I said, I was flipped out. I said, "I've met a lot of movie stars." I said, "Oh, I know you have." I said, "But this is like nuts because this is just one of those iconic songs that I'd always heard and visualized, and it was crazy." So that might have been the most starstruck I was. A
That's amazing.
musician, a rock musician, yeah.
How about the best piece of advice you've been given?
In the business,
Yes.
what I said, what Eli said, basically, it encompasses it all. Don't show that you're angry. You have to be angry. And as actors, sometimes you have to remind yourself of that because it's pretty easy to start falling back on your tricks, stuff that works. I think listening is really paramount. And you forget to do that too. Sometimes you think about, well, my line's next, what am I going to say next? But if you're really listening to the other actor, your response is going to be phenomenal. And just,
Yeah.
I love the realness of that. Other than that, my brother, who's not in the business, said, "Jayne, always work harder than the next guy." Said, okay, well, that's good advice.
That's very good
And he
advice.
became a multimillionaire. And I remember in the art studio, they would hire art students from OCA, and then we'd be given like a pretty boring job to do, like a blueprint or something. And I remember this girl saying, "Oh, this is so boring." And so I just buckled down and did the whole thing myself. You know what I mean? So just
Yeah.
work hard, just do your best, do your
Yeah.
best. And then I will tell you what it's like though, being a Canadian on an American set. Sometimes you don't talk until you're spoken to. Doesn't matter how big you are in Canada, there's a divide.
Yeah.
There's a sad divide quite often
Mm.
until they get to know you, because they don't know that we're actually really good actors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're coming in secondary parts. They've never heard of us. And a lot of them, I think a lot of stars are very surprised by what they find here.
Mm.
So I must say, um, I'm always pretty happy when I walk onto a Canadian set. You know what I mean? Well, because all the crew know who I am, so there's that too, but it's there's none of that division. Sadly, there is that division sometimes. That makes me sad. But it usually works out.
Yeah. Well, your career has worked out. You have
Yeah, I'm lucky.
so many awards. We talked earlier about the award you won for Paw Patrol that you just couldn't believe it. Do you have a moment that you look back on and you say, I'm really proud that I got to do that, or I'm really proud that I was honored for that specific thing?
Um, I never think I deserve anything, if you want to know the truth. You know what I mean? It's um I honestly can't think. I can't think of what like I would be really proud of. I'm sorry. I can't answer that.
There a piece of work that you've done? Is there a movie you've done that you said that turned out really, really good and I'm proud I got to be a part of it?
It's mostly television because most of the movies I've done have been American, so the roles are they're smaller, you know,
Mhm.
and they're easy to do. Like the This is Wonderland, I was very, very proud of because it's like really fast moving dialogue. It's kind of like the West Wing, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was proud of my work on that, I must say. And every once in a while we'll see something and go, well, you're not bad, girl. You're pretty good. But that was one of the ones I like the best.
Well, you have had such an amazing career. I have been a
Thank
fan
you.
since I was about 5 years old.
Oh, thank you. That's
To
so
get the
nice.
chance to meet you and know you has been such a gift. And I'm honored that you said yes to doing this with me. And I know this interview was all over the place. I literally have pages of just questions. I said, I can write this like a well-crafted interview, or I can just throw questions at you. So
I
I
thought your
decided to do
questions were very, very on point and fabulous. And you're warm and friendly and you're beautiful. And it was really nice. I hope
it.
we see each other again
I
sometime.
know, me too. I'm up in Toronto all the time working with
Are you?
Sharon and Bram. So when we're up there at some point, maybe we can have coffee
Yeah,
or something like that.
that would be
I
great.
would love that.
Okay, great. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Jayne. I'll let
Okay,
you know when I'm
honey.
in Toronto next. I would love to see you.
You too. Okay, bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.
Bye.